Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. It is Tuesday, May 14th. Wow, halfway through this month already as well. It's shocking. Anyways, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to our channel and our morning news update, along with a trade plan to go with the S&P 500. Now, this morning we got PPI data, the first inflation event of this week. We have CPI tomorrow. We got Jerome Powell today as well, coming on the wire at 10. And we're looking for an increase in volume, an increase in volatility, market movement that has been very sleepy over the last few weeks. That hasn't been the best for day traders, right? And there's been ranges. S&P has been moving in awful conditions. A lot of people flipping over to the NASDAQ in a state of, I guess, boredom and sleep with the S&P. So let's take a look at some of this PPI news first, right? We can look at like the SPX or something that moved based off of that. We got an immediate downside move from that inflation report. It bounced, it recovered fairly well, honestly. We got a very strong recovery here. We got what do we got? We got the U.S. PPI year over year, 2.2%, expected in line with expectations. 2.1 was the prior. One of the things that put some downside pressure on this was the U.S. core PPI year over year, 2.3% was expected. 2.3% was expected. 2.4 came out a bit heavier than they wanted. 2.4 was the last reading. The U.S. PPI month over month was fairly heavy. The prior was 0.2%. The expected was 0.3, and they got 0.5%. What else? The core month over month, same thing. Expected at 0.2. Prior 0.2 came out at 0.5. So the inflation keeps creeping up as JPowell is talking about seasonal inflation, same as transitory inflation last time around. Maybe put some downside pressure on this market, I think, in the coming days/weeks, with a temporary topping out somewhere here or very close to it. A lot of people looking for 5,300. If that trades, so be it. But I think that we're starting to put a high in, or looking to put a high in. And we're going to see what Jerome Powell talks about today as he comes on at 10 p.m. That's going to be a major news event into the morning session, right? So let me see here. What else do we have? Earnings. Some of the earnings, right? Consumer figures and stocks, right? U.S. consumers are finally tightening their purse strings, it might seem. That's the main question that's on the mind of investors as major retailers kick off their quarterly earnings report this week, starting with Home Depot, right? Home Depot's improvement chain Q1 results came in below the street's expectations, hurt by delayed start to spring, continued softness in certain larger discretionary projects, and higher mortgage rates. So generally speaking, this came out here pre-market, if I'm not mistaken. We're down just a bit here. It's not a massive reaction. Retailer earnings come at a time when consumer sentiment is weakening as it stands amid expectations of stickier inflation for some time to come and tempered outlook for income growth. Some investors and traders alike, analysts, believe that stagflation is an increasingly likely economic scenario, and right now that they believe that the average American consumer has a better handle on the U.S. economy than the average investor, and a better take on the true level of inflation than government statistics, right, based on the pricing of things. So Scott Feeler, a consumer sector specialist at Goldman Sachs, said that the consumer spending concerns have been driven by updates by bellwethers in the sector and the notable slowdown seen in April, one of the worst months of the retail quarter. Companies like Wayfair, Whirlpool have already warned that consumers are cutting back on spending on big ticket items, while fast food chains like McDonald's and Starbucks, we saw Starbucks earnings, which weren't very pleasing this roundabout, right? We got a fairly large decline in that. Have observed pickier and more value-minded customers. Consumer cracks are emerging, especially among lower incomes, warned Bank of America and their analysts. And Walmart, which will report Q1 earnings on Thursday, I believe, is expected to report modest upside to the consensus U.S. comparable sales estimates driven by bargain hunting shoppers. Also, we have eyes on retailers scheduled to report later next week. Lowe's, Target, TJX, and Ross stores. So we'll see how those shape up, right? Those can have an impact on the current market movement as it stands. And I think that these earnings, toppled with a few other factors, inflation, monetary policy, and seasonality, can peak these markets temporarily to see a little more downside realistically. So we have some news on NVO. This is one of my favorite foreign stocks actually. Novo Nordisk, right? I was gonna say Novo Discord, but Novo Nordisk. I like it. I like it. I like it as a name, as a foreign piece to the portfolio. What was that? What was the name? Something Kitty, the GME, the GameStop guy, Roaring Kitty, Raging Kitty. I can't remember, but remember yesterday he tweeted the first time in 3 years GME rises like 1 billion% over here. It started memeing along with like AMC and whatnot. So they like the name, right? They're back at it. It halted several times yesterday. I don't even know where it's trading. Oh my God, it's trading at 67. Jeez. What the hell? So GME is on a freaking tear again. This is insane. A lot of money has been made. A lot of puts have been destroyed. A lot of short sellers have been nuked as well. With these meme stocks, AMC is on a freaking tear as well. Wow, that is insane, right? I'm not in these. I haven't memed in a while, honestly, and this seems like IV's probably expanded like crazy, but this thing exploded yet again, back into the cycle of memeing. This thing's up like 100% on the overnight session, but I got sidetracked there. That is crazy. Bag holders are maybe finally coming back to life. Novo Nordisk, right, in the news again. Patients who are taking the obesity drug Wegovy have reportedly maintained on average 10% weight loss 4 years after starting the treatment. We see that once the majority of the weight loss is accrued, you don't go back to the start of to increase weight if you stay on the drug, right? This is what they said. Novo's head of development, the data could help Novo in its efforts to convince insurers and governments to provide coverage for the treatment, interestingly enough. So, again, they're progressing and progressing. They had a split recently, I guess, last year towards the end of the year. And this is only good news for this name, right? I like it for the longer term as well. I think they're making advancements. They're going to continue that process realistically. So, that's the main news realistically. Today we have Fed's Cook on the wire right now. I believe Jerome Powell. We have Fed Schmidt as well. But JPowell comes on at 10. I think that's going to be the main news that comes out this morning that a lot of people are going to want to keep their eyes peeled on and trade lightly around this event. So you don't really get chopped up. We had news this morning that swung things around. And as we see, with that news this morning, what happened? We're pretty much back expected and then rallied back up, right? Bullish pressure, they swept it back up. Buyers came in, ate that dip, and we're trading now back pretty much where we started the move. So currently, we have this like P-shaped volume profile that's shaping up, heavy volume into these highs this pre-market session. We've got an immediate resistance at 52, like 48, 49. For me, that becomes like pretty much the last chance for these sellers to come through. The absorption of all of this selling that quickly rebounded isn't a great look for the seller continuation. It's been a bullish DOM as well. The order flow flipped bullish here pre-market after that move lower. So one last chance for these sellers to come in. If there's going to be any selling, it's going to be under that like low mid 30 on the S&P. But that also becomes a huge buy point. That's where the imbalanced buyers stepped in. And realistically, if we pull down to that area, I'm going to start trying to locate if any buyers want to revive themselves through those areas. So it's like they tried. They're topping out slightly, but I don't like the reaction against that selling that transpired. So going to have to tread lightly on this. Don't want to just continuously sell as this thing continues to rally, especially with JPowell around the corner. So I'll leave you off with that. We'll open up our live trading room and see how JPowell affects these markets, how this honestly bullish order flow affects these markets because you don't want to be blinded by the first move of news, right? What happens if we swing this thing back up and they just continuously buy and you're left selling as this thing rallies another 30 points higher? So I want to be very cautious about that. If there's going to be any selling, it's going to have to happen pretty much where we're at right now into these like high 40s. Otherwise, it's just shit out of luck. So let's open up our live trading room. We had a great bounce back day yesterday. We're taking it slow. We're really trying to pinpoint where these imbalances are. Less trades, smaller size, as we're expecting a little more volume and volatility to start stepping in this week. The daily traded volume so far here pre-market isn't that high still. Yesterday it was like 110,000. Right now we're probably going to open close to 200,000 contracts traded, which is double from yesterday's volume. So we could see a little more, especially with JPowell out, maybe a little more, and then start looking for higher probability moves. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's wrap this up. I still think that we're heading for an immediate peak in the markets where there's a little more attraction to the downside, which should be interesting. But I don't want to live and die by that construct because it led to a tougher week last week. So let's wrap this up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Check out community.tradepro.